As always, subscribe, like, share, comment. For this video, I wanted to talk about what D.K. Mathews said in his memoirs. Um, I, he recounted what happened in 1955, and I think there's some things we can learn from what he said about tribalism, about the relationship of the Jieeng community to other ethnic groups in South Sudan. Because now there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of hatred. I've talked to people I know who are from other tribes, maybe some people who are from Western Barazal, for example, the area of Wow, and also people from the Equatorial region. So I've talked to different people, and what they say about the attitude of some of the relatives toward the Jieeng people. And some of the things they say are not promising. They do understand that we need, as South Sudanese, to live together, to forgive one another, to see ways in which we can live together. They do understand that. And there are people who are educated, they're exposed to different people, different ways in different ethnic groups, so they understand that. But the people back home who don't see any good side of Jieeng people. My friends see, they know that not all Jieeng people are bad. They do understand they're bad Jieeng people, but they understand that not all Jieeng people are bad. But people who are living on the ground, for example, if you go to Juba, people whose lands are being, taken by force, people who are intimidated by commanders, and most of these people, they see them as Jieeng. So the army and the government becomes the embodiment of Jieeng people. So they see no difference between the government and Jieeng people. And the suffering they go through, they attribute that to Jieeng people, because the people doing that, the people in power, are Jieeng people. And that makes it really difficult, because we're not thinking in terms of solutions. So in 1955, D.K. Mathews, he was a student by that time in Rumbek Secondary School, and he relayed this story when some students were going to the north for some sort of sports tournament. But in 1955, as I think most of you know, or all of you know, was the time when the South was in turmoil. The independence was near. Politicians were worried about being dominated by the northern politicians, and Azar was doing what he called Sudanization, to remove colonial officials and replace them with Sudanese. So in the South, instead of replacing the colonial officials with Southern Sudanese by then, in the South, he replaced them with Northern Sudanese. So that caused a lot of anxiety among politicians, among the civil servants and civilians in South Sudan. So there were so many things being discussed. Some of the things were true, some of the things were propaganda to sort of instigate people to rise up. So the mutinies, the Equatorial Corps in Torit, so they understood that. But the people who were told to be removed from the south were not only from Equatorial, there were other people in Upper Nile and also in Barakazal that were being moved also to the north. The other ones had no problems, but the ones in Equatoria, they were really political agitated. So they refused to move and they mutinied. So the South was in turmoil. So when the students, with those of D.K. Mathews, were moving, the South, as you know, was in turmoil, and many people in Equatoria had developed a negative attitude towards Northerners. So when they were coming in the car, the headmaster was from the north. He was, as we say in Sudan, Sudanese Arab. So it was in the car with his family, and there were other teachers from the south. So when they came, there was a group of young men stopping all cars and checking them for Northern Sudanese. So when they came, they saw that there were Northern Sudanese in the car. There was the headmaster and his family. So they came and grabbed them. They were all interested in Northern Sudanese. They were not interested in South Sudanese, because they saw South Sudanese, they were own people. South Sudanese, whether you're from any tribe in South Sudan, you were South Sudanese and you were safe. That was around Ye. They were from Pujulu, and there was an elder among them who was telling them what to do. So when they took the headmaster and his family, some of the southern teachers intervened and said to the elder and the youth, look, these people, the northerners, are not the bad guys. This is a headmaster who is educating our young people so that they become educated and they can fight intellectually with the northerners on equal footing. So they say, don't kill them. He's not the bad guy. But they were wild with anger and what was happening, and they were not listening. So the teachers intervened. But then there was one Jieeng teacher who was very vocal. Then the elder said, this guy says he's a southerner, but I don't believe. You say you are a Jieeng person, but I don't think you're a Jieeng man, because there are some northerners who look like southerners, like people from the Nuba Mountains, from Darfur. They look like southerners, but they called Shumalin, and in the south they call them black Arabs. So he said, you're a black Arab. You're not a South Sudanese. So, and he said, no, I'm a South Sudanese. I'm a Jieeng person. So, and he said, prove it. So prove it. And the guy spoke in the Jieeng language. But the elder said, anyone can speak any language. You can learn a Jieeng language. You can learn any language. So that's not a proof of anything. So he said, okay, if you're a Jieeng person, can you sing in Jieeng? So the man again sang in the language. So the elder was now convinced that this guy is a Jieeng guy. And that saved his life, because they wanted to kill him with the rest. So when this guy had proved that he was Jieeng, he proved that he was South Sudanese, and therefore he was safe. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is, some people say that people hate Jieeng for nothing. I've gone into conversation where people will say, oh, they just hate us. A while ago, the former governor of Warab, I think Anai, what's his name? Louis Anai. He's also part of the Jieeng Council of Elders. He was in Melbourne, and he talked to Jieeng audience where he said, Equatorians hate us. The Nuer do not have self-control. All they do is, one thing. Let's just do it. Let's just go in and do something. They don't have self-control. And he said the Jieeng people have this philosophy of concord. If you are in any situation, it's like, please, let's wait. Let's take time. Let's take time to do it. That's what he was saying. So some people just assume that the same thing. They assume that we Jieeng are hated for nothing. But there's always a reason why people hate people. So you have to address it. The reason why I gave the DK story is, in the past, you had to prove to be a Jieeng person to be safe. But in some cases in the Equatorians now, if you prove to be a Jieeng person, you are not safe. So what happened? That tells me that things were not always like this. There's politics. Whether we're talking about Kokora, there's always politics coming into tribal issues. So politicians actually use tribal differences. Tribal differences are not a problem in themselves. For some of us, I have nieces whose mothers are from Taposa, some from Pujulu, some from Kakwa. So the idea that you can hate people from your own family just doesn't make any sense. So, but I think what we need to do is to address why people hate, because if we cannot pinpoint that, we cannot come with solutions to those problems, then anything we're saying is nothing. We need to identify, and then we need to talk. We need to see who are the cause of the problems, the people who make other tribes see Jieeng as the problem. Because when I talk to my friends, whether in Juba or in Wow, they say people that they hate the Jieeng, they hate Jieeng people. But why? Hate is not something that is born with you or descends somewhere else. It's developed. But it's developed based on some things people live through.